As I noted, we are in this sermon and worship series that's kind of cheekily, in a cheeky way, is titled, Confirmation Again for the First Time. What does this mean? And so just so you know, worship attendance is required. Sermon notes are to be expected and turned in to the pastor for review. And you will have your memorization quiz on the catechism, including all of the explanations from Luther's small catechism on Labor Day Sunday. Okay, so mark that down. For some of you, that may bring back old memories. For some of you, that may bring back a bit of old trauma. Maybe for some of you, it brings back even a little bit of joy, maybe. But back to the basics is what we're doing. And as we get back to the basics, we're asking the question, what does this mean? Or maybe a better question is, why does it really matter? Why does it matter? At the outset, thanks to John Sorum, who last week kicked us off with this. John is a Lutheran professor of theology, has taught pastors and theologians and seminarians, and John has great wisdom, and he's a blessing to us in this. And I have been back in civilization. I was gone this last week off the grid, and I've been back for about 14 hours. But one of the first things I did was listen to John's sermon. And he said it well. The Ten Commandments, the Creed, and the Lord's Prayer make up kind of the grounding of faith. And most catechisms started with what you believe, so the Creed, and then went to the Ten Commandments. But Luther reversed the order. He started with the commandments and then went to what we believe. He switched it around because, as John said, Luther started with where we are. We start with where we are. And that's where God begins. Even more so in Jesus, that's where God is, where we are. So Luther began there, and as John wisely said, this is not an exclusively Judeo-Christian thing. This is where we all are. And that is in relationship. No matter who you are, what faith you have or what faith you don't have, we are all in relationship. If nothing else to each other, but certainly as faithful people, we would say to God and the creation as well. And so the commandments are the great description and kind of the diagnosis even of what that relationship looks like. It wasn't a novel thing that Luther made up to ground it in relationship. It was rather a true thing that Luther helped to recenter. This entire life being about relationship with God and with one another. So he starts with the Ten Commandments. Now, how many of you know them? Okay, here we go. Confirmation class, strap in. Here we go. Okay, I haven't gotten to do this for a little bit because we haven't had too many kids around here. Everybody put your number 1 up. Okay, here's what you do. Repeat after me. I am the Lord your God. You shall have no other gods. You got to put your fingers up, otherwise you won't remember, okay? Number 2, okay, we're going to take our pulse because it's, you shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain. Okay, say that. You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain, okay? You got to make your number 3 like this, okay? So you can't make it like this. You can't make it like this. You got to make it like this because it's remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. Okay? You got to remember the Sabbath day and keep it. Put your number 4 up, okay? This is an easy one. Honor your father and mother, okay? Honor your father and mother. All right, this gets a little graphic, so bear with me. You shall not murder. Number 5, you shall not murder, okay? Number 6, do it like this. If you have a wedding ring, but if you don't, it's you shall not commit adultery. You should not commit adultery, okay? Number 7, you got to do it like this, because this is our grabber, this is our taker. You shall not steal. You shall not steal. Got that? Number 8, another fun one. Like, got to do it like this. Put your thumbs in, because it's you shall not bear false witness. Okay, got that? You shall not bear false witness. Number 9, this one is more to do with number 10, because if you remember number 10, you'll remember number 9. Number 9 is, you shall not covet your neighbor's house. Yeah, covet your neighbor's house. And then number 10 is, you shall not covet anything else that is your neighbor's. You got that? Okay, so if we run, I'm going to run through them quick. You try to keep up. Number 1, I am the Lord your God. You shall have no other gods. Number 2, you shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain. Number 3, remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. Number 4, honor your mother and father. Number 5, you shall not murder. Number 6, you shall not commit adultery. Number 7, you shall not steal. Number 8, you shall not bear false witness. Number 9, you shall not covet your neighbors. And number 10, you shall not covet anything else that is your neighbor's as well. You remember that for the quiz. Okay. You had me thinking, where do you hear, not many of you raised your hands when you said you knew them all. Some of you were like, a couple. I might be able to get there. Made me think, where do you hear about the 10 Commandments most often? What's that? Oh, the movie. Shannon said the movie. Yes, the movie, Charlton Heston. Some of you are in that generation, I know. The movie. I thought, where do you hear it most often these days? I think one of the places that I hear about it most often is when people want to put them up in places. I have to confess, I'm a little bit dubious or suspicious when that happens. In a society where freedom of religion is one of the grounding principles of the governing structures, when Christians start wanting to make sure the 10 Commandments are displayed in public spaces in schools, I get a little, something in me gets a little uneasy. Why? Well, I have compassion for it. I think the commandments are good. I believe they speak to all people. They can speak to all people regardless of faith. I believe that if all of us as a human family adhered to and lived them, the promise of God that is in them would be true. It would be well with us, and our days would be long. Can you imagine if there was no murder, no stealing, no betrayal of promises, if everybody spoke well of each other, if nobody wanted what other people had, if we had reverence for God and God's name, if everybody did this? So it's not without compassion, but then I wonder, why not put up also the 5 pillars of Islam, the 5 precepts of Buddhist thought, the grounding principles of relationship with the creation found in Native American spirituality? As John referenced last week, when you start with belief and then go to the commands, it's easy for the religious structure to then be about power and control. And to me, putting only them up reeks of a power move of control and dominance. Because here's another question I ask. If we are to put up the 10 Commandments, which 10 Commandments will you put up? Here's the fun thing. Did you know that the 10 Commandments are different? Or at least numbered different, depending on what tradition you come from? In Jewish tradition, the first commandment is, I am the Lord your God. Period. The second commandment, it wouldn't work, right? Because the second commandment is, you shall have no other gods. Then the third commandment is, you shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain. The fourth commandment is the Sabbath. The fifth commandment is the parents, and so on and so forth. And what they do in order to get 10 then is they put the coveting together. Now, if you come from Roman Catholic or Lutheran tradition, we number them a different way, like we just went through. The first is, I am the Lord your God, you shall have no other gods. The next one is the name of the Lord your God. So we skip over that idols part because Lutherans and Catholics like, well, you should have no other gods. That implies don't make any idols. And then in order to get 10, so we don't have 9, we split up the coveting. So it's house first and then anything else that is your neighbor's. You following this? In Reformed traditions, they start with, you shall have no other gods. Then number 2 is, you shall not make a graven image or an idol. And then the name. And then what they do to get 10 is they combine the coveting again. So which 10 commandments will we put up? Almost 100% of the time, especially in this country, it is the Reformed tradition. Why? The Reformed tradition, at least these days, has a little bit more to do with what you are supposed to do. And as we follow through the catechism, Luther will state that the basis of faith is not so much on what you are supposed to do, but what God has already done. Fun Bible fact. They're different in the Bible. The 10 Commandments are located in 2 places in the Bible. Exodus 20, which Robbie read for us today, and Deuteronomy 5. And did you know that they are different? Wouldn't you say? What do you know? In Exodus and Deuteronomy, both of them say, remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. Exodus 20, it says it this way, remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the 7th day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. You shall not do any work, you, your son or your daughter, your male or your female slave, your livestock, or the alien resident in your towns, right? For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that is in them, but rested the 7th day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and consecrated it. In other words, remember the Sabbath day, rest that day, because if it was good enough for God in creation, it's good enough for you. In Deuteronomy, here's what it says. Observe the Sabbath day and keep it holy, as the Lord your God commanded you. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the 7th day is the Sabbath to the Lord your God. You shall not do any work, you or your son or your daughter, your male or your female slave, or your ox or your donkey, or any of your livestock. They include the ox and donkey in there. The animals should rest, or the resident alien in your towns, so that your male and female slave may rest as well as you. And then, remember that you were a slave in the land of Egypt. And the Lord your God brought you out from there with a mighty hand and an outstretched arm. Therefore, the Lord your God commanded you to keep the Sabbath day. Exodus says, remember the Sabbath day, because in creation, God rested. Deuteronomy says, remember the Sabbath day, because you used to be slaves. Interesting. You'll say, oh, Pastor, that's just a different explanation, but it's the same commandment. Well, there's more. In Exodus 20, the coveting, you shall not covet your neighbor's house. And then it says, you shall not covet your neighbor's wife or male or female slave, ox, donkey, anything that belongs to your neighbor. In Deuteronomy 5, it starts with, you shall not covet your neighbor's wife. Then, neither shall you desire your neighbor's house or field or male or female slave or ox or donkey or anything that belongs to your neighbor. Why? What happened? Did they write it down wrong? Did God change the rules? In the course of time and the historical situation and context, with more emphasis on protecting one another's relationships and also uplifting the status of women, did the people realize that it might be very prudent to separate it out Do not covet your neighbor's spouse. Which 10 commandments will you go with? Exodus 20 or Deuteronomy 5? Are you with me? But then there's Jesus. Jesus says a lot about the 10 commandments. I wonder why it is that many Jesus followers want to post the 10 commandments but don't ever say we should post the Beatitudes. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will receive mercy. Blessed are the pure of heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. And blessed are those who are persecuted for all these things, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Which one's more powerful to y'all? Jesus says about the commandments, in Matthew chapter 5, he says, you've heard it said, you know that one, you shall not murder? And whoever murders shall be liable to judgment. But I say to you that if you are angry with a brother or sister, you will be liable to judgment. And if you insult a brother or sister, you will be liable to the council. And if you say, you fool, you will be liable to the hell of fire. Yikes! You've heard it said, you shall not murder, but I'm saying if you are angry with somebody, you've committed murder, Jesus is saying. People will say the God of the Old Testament is the one of wrath. He doesn't stop there. You've heard it said, you shall not commit adultery, but I say to you that everyone who looks at a woman with lust has already committed adultery with her in his heart. Oh, my Lord Jesus. The 9th graders are having a tough time with this. And not only them, this does not only apply to the guys either. And then Jesus says, if your eye causes you to sin, tear it out and throw it away. It's better for you to lose an eye than for your whole body to go into hell. Whoa! At the end of this sermon, the disciples are left wondering, how do we keep these? And that's what the lawyer says to Jesus. He asks Jesus, what must I do to inherit eternal life? Jesus says, well, you're a scriptural lawyer. You study the commandments. What does it say there? The guy says, well, it says, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. Jesus is like, you got it. Do that. And then the lawyer asks, yeah, but who is my neighbor? And then Jesus goes on to tell a story. You all know it as the Good Samaritan, where certain people pass by the guy that's been beaten up, and the least likely person goes into the ditch and picks him up and puts him on the donkey, takes him to the inn, pays for all his stay. And at the end of that story, Jesus does not answer the question the person asked. The lawyer asked, who is my neighbor? And at the end of that story, Jesus asks, who was neighbor to the man? In other words, who was neighborly? What are the 10 Commandments really about? Relationship with one another, relationship with God and each other. They're a good reminder of it. They also perhaps convict us. And hidden in them is a wonderful promise. It's this one. Put it up. Go ahead. I am the Lord your God. And instead of this, you shall have no other gods. You shall have no other gods. That's the promise. This God who gives us the Ten Commandments says, I am your God no matter what. Now, today, and always. I will be in relationship with you. And you'll have to wait until next week and the following weeks to hear a little bit more about who that God is and what that God does. But for now, remember this one. Amen.